tattoos across his entire body, a double-bladed lightsaber that felt like a cheat code the first time you saw it. He looked unstoppable. He looked like the ultimate warrior. But here's the thing. The more you actually watch him, the more you realize Maul wasn't a genius strategist or a flawless assassin. He was basically a rage-fueled gym bro who couldn't stop showing off, and that's the funny part. Because if you look at his big moments, he constantly snatches defeat from the jaws of victory. On Naboo, he literally has 2 Jedi cornered, and instead of finishing the job, he paces around like he's waiting for the DJ to drop the bass. He kills Qui-Gon, has Obi-Wan dangling in a pit, and then just stands there smirking. A few seconds later, he's cut in half and tumbling down a shaft like it's a bad amusement park ride. That's not brilliance. That's arrogance mixed with stupidity. Even when he survives being bisected, which, by the way, is one of the most insane comebacks in Star Wars, he immediately goes back to making the same mistakes. He gets spider legs, finds a brother, builds an army, and somehow still can't hold on to power for more than 5 minutes. He takes over Mandalore, which is actually impressive, and then spends all his time trying to lure Obi-Wan into a fistfight. Imagine conquering a planet and then losing it because you're too busy stalking your ex. But you know what makes it so fascinating? It's the fact that Maul always looked unstoppable, even when he wasn't. His fights are some of the most spectacular in the franchise. He moves like a predator, he fights with this furious intensity, and he has that energy that makes you lean forward in your seat. And then he ruins it by opening his mouth, making a dumb decision, or underestimating literally everyone around him. He's like watching the smartest looking guy in the room repeatedly walk into the same glass door. And it's hard not to feel a little sympathy too, because under all the arrogance and failure is a character who was robbed of a normal life and turned into a weapon. His whole existence was about serving Sidious, and when Sidious moved on, Maul just drifted through the galaxy, chasing revenge like it was the only thing keeping him alive. That's not scary, that's sad. And maybe that's why fans love him so much, because he's terrifying, but also kind of pathetic. In this video, we're going to peel back the layers of Darth Maul and show why he wasn't the overpowered monster people like to imagine. We're going to look at how his arrogance cost him everything, how his obsession with revenge made him reckless, and why his story is less about dominance and more about downfall. By the end, you'll see that Maul wasn't the Sith genius fans wanted him to be. He was a cautionary tale about what happens when talent gets wasted by ego. When you first meet Darth Maul in The Phantom Menace, he looks like the perfect villain. Horned head, red and black tattoos, and of course that double-bladed lightsaber reveal that blew every kid's mind in 1999. It was the kind of introduction that made you think this guy was going to run the galaxy by dinner time. But once you look past the surface, the cracks in the myth start showing. Maul was supposed to be Sidious's secret weapon, the hidden apprentice who could take on the Jedi without anyone knowing the Sith were back. He's literally a shadow assassin trained since birth for one purpose. But here's the question. If Maul was so dangerous, why did he get cut in half by a Padawan on his first real mission? That's not exactly the flawless victory record you'd expect from someone billed as the next great Sith Lord. Even in the fight on Naboo, Maul shows his weakness in plain sight. He's toying with Qui-Gon in the desert. He's throwing sparks and flips in the Theed hangar. He's basically auditioning for Cirque du Soleil with a lightsaber. And all that flash makes him look unstoppable, until Obi-Wan stops playing along and cuts right through the arrogance. The curiosity isn't whether Maul was powerful, it's why he kept losing when it mattered most. Fans like to imagine Maul as this unstoppable juggernaut, but his track record tells another story. He lost to Obi-Wan multiple times. He got humiliated by Sidious when he tried to rebel. And he failed to hold on to Mandalore even with an entire army of Death Watch at his back. If this is what overpowered looks like, I'd hate to see what weak is. That's the real hook of Maul's story. Not that he wasn't skilled, because he absolutely was. It's that his arrogance and obsession made him beat himself. The more you look at him, the more you realize Darth Maul isn't the story of a warrior cut down too soon. He's the story of a weapon that never knew how to aim straight. It's honestly frustrating how much wasted potential Darth Maul had. He had the training, he had the talent, and he had the opportunity to be a game-changing villain. But instead of being the ultimate hunter of Jedi, he kept tripping over his own ego, like a kid running with scissors. For all the mockery we can throw at Maul's failures, there's also a deep sadness running through his story. He wasn't just arrogant, he was broken long before Obi-Wan ever cut him in half. Raised from childhood to be nothing more than Sidious's weapon, Maul never got the chance to be anything else. That's not a life, that's a cage. When he's revived in Clone Wars, crawling on spider legs and mumbling in madness, you see just how much trauma he carried. He wasn't a calculating Sith Lord. He was a shattered survivor, barely holding on to his sanity. That image of him begging his brother for help is one of the darkest in all of Star Wars. It shows us that Maul's arrogance was as much a mask as it was a flaw. Then there's his obsession with Obi-Wan. It wasn't just revenge, it was the only thing keeping him alive. He lost his master, He lost his purpose, and all he had left was hatred. That kind of single-minded obsession is heartbreaking because it shows how empty his life had become. Every scheme, every alliance, every plan boiled down to one desperate need: to kill the man who cut him in half. Even when he finally finds Obi-Wan in Rebels, you can feel the tragedy in his words. He asks if Kenobi is protecting someone, searching for meaning, for some way to make sense of his life. And when Obi-Wan strikes him down in a single stroke, Maul dies, not screaming in anger, but whispering about the Chosen One. It's not rage anymore. It's surrender. The sorrow of Maul's story is that he could never escape the role Sidious forced on him. He was bred for destruction, molded for violence, and in the end, he became a hollow echo of everything he might have been. Darth Maul wasn't overpowered. He was overused, discarded, and left with nothing but hate. For all his flaws, you can't deny Darth Maul is jaw-dropping on screen. That first duel in The Phantom Menace still holds up as one of the greatest fights in the franchise. The choreography, the music, the intensity, it made him feel like a force of nature. Even if his brain was switched off, his body was operating at full power. His agility was insane. Leaping across catwalks, flipping through narrow corridors, wielding a double-bladed lightsaber, like it was an extension of himself. Star Wars had never shown us a fight like that before. He wasn't a slow armored warrior like Vader. He was speed, precision, and ferocity wrapped into one terrifying package. Clone Wars expanded that spectacle even more. The way he cuts through clone squads, duels with Ahsoka on Mandalore, and even matches Sidious blow for blow, it's breathtaking. You might laugh at his arrogance, but you can't deny the raw skill on display. He was a living weapon in motion, and the galaxy felt it every time he ignited his blade. What makes Maul's story oddly inspiring is how much he refused to quit. Cut in half, thrown into a trash pit, abandoned by his master, he still clawed his way back into relevance. That stubborn refusal to die is its own kind of hope, even if it was twisted by hate. He built alliances out of nothing, pulling Savage Opress into his orbit, convincing Death Watch to follow him, and even manipulating crime syndicates into creating the Shadow Collective. It was messy, it was short-lived, but it proved that Maul could carve out a place for himself, even when the galaxy was stacked against him. Even his obsession with Obi-Wan carries a strange kind of hope. It gave him purpose, something to fight for, something to keep him alive when he had no reason left to keep breathing. In its own warped way, that fixation was the fuel that kept him going, long after logic said he should be gone. And when you see him mentoring Ezra, even if it's for selfish reasons, you get a glimpse of what Maul could have been if he'd channeled his pain differently. A teacher, a leader, someone who passed on knowledge instead of rage. That glimpse gives you a strange sense of what might have been. The hope in Maul's story isn't about redemption, because he never finds it. It's about survival, about proving that even the most broken can keep moving forward. And that lesson, twisted as it is, still resonates. In the end, Darth Maul's life is the definition of wasted potential. He had the power, he had the skill, but he never had the wisdom to use them. His arrogance cost him victories, his obsession cost him freedom, and his hatred cost him peace. That is his tragedy. He wanted to be a great Sith Lord, feared across the galaxy. But in truth, he was a pawn who outlived his usefulness. Sidious replaced him, the galaxy moved on, and Maul spent the rest of his life chasing ghosts of battles he could never win. It's almost Shakespearean in its futility. His final duel with Obi-Wan is the perfect resolution. Quick, decisive, almost merciful. In that single strike, Obi-Wan not only ends Maul's suffering, but also closes the book on a life defined by mistakes. It's tragic because you realize Maul was never the master of his fate. He was always trapped in the shadow of others. And yet, his story serves as a cautionary tale. Raw talent without discipline leads nowhere. Arrogance without foresight leads to downfall. Maul embodies both, and his life is a reminder of what happens when you waste every chance you're given. Darth Maul wasn't overpowered. He was overconfident, reckless, and ultimately doomed by his own flaws. His legacy isn't one of triumph, but of warning. A reminder that the deadliest weapon in the galaxy is useless, if the one holding it has no idea how to use it. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that share button. My main channel is Critical Analysis Hub, where I post Star Wars content about the movies. My secondary channel is Critical Analysis Hub Plus, where I focus on the shows of Star Wars. And my third channel is Critical Analysis Hub XP, where I post comic books. Be sure to take a moment and check them out. Thanks, and may the Force be with you.